Hello. Let me start off by saying I'm sick. So although I probably sound like crap, that means I'm home from work. So this is a perfect opportunity to give you another update on what I've learned so far on my spiritual journey. So first, we have to start with exactly what are we? What are we made of? Turns out we're simply made of energy, as is the rest of the universe. We are an energy being, a spiritual energy being, temporarily housed inside a physical human body. Nikola Tesla knew this long ago when he said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that's exactly what we're made of. Your thoughts have a frequency and a vibration. Now, this representation here shows our energy in the form of a human, as that is what we are used to seeing people as. But in reality, we have no form. Our spirit has no form, just like electricity has no form. I've heard stories of nurses working in hospice care who have seen some pretty incredible things to do with souls and energy leaving a body at time of death. So when we die, our soul, our energy being, separates from our physical body. In a way, it's like a snake shedding its skin. We leave it behind and we move forward. There are many stories of near-death experiences, NDEs as they are called, that discuss having these out-of-body experiences. Some people speak of how freeing it feels to not have the constraints of the human body anymore, to be able to move around freely, and to be able to see 360 degrees around you all at once. I encourage you to search for some of these NDE videos on YouTube. There are also thousands of transcripts of past life and life between lives hypnosis sessions, again, all making the same similar claims, so many that you cannot just ignore them. Let me say that I started out as a non-practicing Christian. I went through the first 50 years of my life believing that there was something out there bigger than us, just not quite exactly sure what. I'd heard of God and Jesus, had been to church a couple times, but I always figured that I did not need organized religion, that I should be able to talk to God anytime, anywhere, if he was as all-powerful as everyone says he is. Now, in 2019, I had what I call a mini miracle in my life. I've told this story before, but I'll just briefly mention it again for those who didn't hear it. I'd started attending church, and I signed up to be baptized. Right after I did that, I developed a compressed nerve in my neck that gave me excruciating pain, where I was completely out of work, and the surgery was scheduled for 2 months away. At one point, I considered suicide, as I had never felt pain like this. In the middle of this period was when I was supposed to be baptized. The day of my baptism came, and I'm lying on the couch, as that was all I could do, thinking about how I made a promise to Jesus which I needed to fulfill. So I stood up, I got myself into the car. I couldn't turn my neck, so I had to turn my whole body every time I got to an intersection. Luckily, the church was not far away. I walked into the church, went in the restroom to change into swimming trunks, and the pain completely left my body. I completed my baptism, got dressed, walked back out to the car, and the pain returned as much as it was before and continued for 2 more months until I had my surgery. But for that 1 hour period, I was completely pain-free. I consider that my mini miracle. So at that point, I was convinced that something was out there. I took some religious studies courses, read through the Bible, but didn't really get an answer as to what God is. It's only when you open your mind and start exploring other points of view do things start to fall into place. There are many different religions, all describing many similar things. But how do we know which one is right and which ones are wrong? Now, from where I'm standing, none of them appear to be completely wrong, and none of them are completely right. You need to remember that any organized religion is like a club, and that club has leaders, and those leaders have egos and agendas. Just look at Congress if you want to see that in action. So why are some books left out of the Bible? Why are some of those that were left out included in the Catholic Bible, but in a separate section? Because some church leaders, human beings, made the decision on what to include and what to leave out. If you look into the Council of Nicaea, which convened in 325, there was a meeting of bishops to discuss various issues that had already arisen in the early church. One of these was known as the Arian controversy. This controversy included two differing viewpoints as to what is God and what is Jesus. Now, Bishop Alexander maintained that Jesus was divine in just the same sense that the Father is, co-eternal with the Father, else he could not be a true son. Arius, a priest under Bishop Alexander, emphasized the supremacy and uniqueness of God the Father, that the Father alone is almighty, and therefore the Father's divinity must be greater than the Son's. Arius taught that the Son had a beginning, and that he possessed neither the eternity nor the true divinity of the Father, but was rather made godlike only by the Father's permission and power, and that Jesus was actually the first and most perfect of God's creatures. This debate raged on for 1 month, with the debate hinging on the difference between being born or created and being begotten. Arians, followers of Arius, saw these as meaning the same thing. Followers of Alexander did not. I won't get into this any further. You can read up on it. But at the end of the meeting, when it was all over, all but 2 out of the estimated 300 attendees agreed the church would officially follow Bishop Alexander's viewpoint. It was then that they formed the Nicene Creed, for subsequent councils going forward to create statements of belief. The intent being to define unity of beliefs for the whole of Christianity. In other words, the church was telling you, if you want to be a Christian, here is what you must think, what you must believe if you want to be a part of their club. At the highest levels, organized religion has its own brand of politics. This is the reason I chose a non-denominational church, and I prefer to do my own homework regarding Jesus and God. Anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. So, we are all energy beings. I encourage you to search out the story of Dr. Eben Alexander, the author of the book Proof of Heaven. Here is a neurosurgeon, a scientific man if there ever was one, who goes into a coma. He has a 2% chance of living, and then only as a vegetable, because his brain was dead. Not just dead, eaten away by meningitis. But yet, he has this tremendously incredible experience while he's brain dead. And then afterwards, he returns to life fully functional. I also highly recommend 2 books by Dr. Michael Newton, who documented thousands of patient stories under hypnosis of returning to the spirit world, the life between lives, as he called it, where we go before and after our time here on Earth. Once again, when you have that many documented cases, you need to pay attention. So, here's what I've learned. God is not some old guy with a long white beard. That's Santa Claus. God is the ultimate, perfect energy being, described as simply total, unconditional love by people that have been in God's presence. Now think back to all the times you've heard that we are supposed to strive to be just like God, unconditionally loving everyone regardless of what they've done to us. Makes a little more sense when you realize that we are also energy beings, and God is the highest energy being, and our purpose is to learn to be just like God. So how do we do that? Here's the cycle as I have learned it. Our soul leaves the body and enters the spirit world. We have a post-life review, eventually with a council of elders. Someone who's had a near-death experience, this is usually as far as they go. So I can only assume that once you go past this point, there's no coming back in this lifetime at least. So once you've reviewed the life you just finished, then you continue on and you rejoin the rest of your spirit group, your soulmates. Yes, you have more than one. And you reflect, relax, repair your energy, and then prepare for your next incarnation. When you're ready, then you plan your next life. You sit down, you figure out what it is you still need to learn to be that perfect godlike being, and how you're going to go about learning it, and who gets to play what parts, so that everyone learns what they need to. Then it's back to work. Vacation is over, your new life begins, and the learning starts anew, rinse and repeat. Michael Newton's case studies consistently lay out the cycle as this. We die, we go through a post-life review, highlighting what we learned from that life, then we return to our spirit group where we recharge our spirit energy, then after a while, could be weeks, years, or millennia, time does not exist in the spirit world, we start planning our next life, our next reincarnation. So let me just reemphasize, why do we reincarnate? The ultimate goal is to become perfect like God. We'll probably never make it, but you can't stop trying. And each time we reincarnate, we learn things which move us further along our path. Then we review that life, decide what we still need to work on, and then we plan out our next life. And we do it over and over until we reach where we need to be. Something to keep in mind here. Most of the major issues you've faced in your life, all the hardships and tragedies, have been placed there with your knowledge and consent beforehand so that you may learn from these experiences. We do have some free will with less important things, but the major things are a test to see how we will handle them. Now, when we incarnate, we suffer from what is called soul amnesia. We don't remember these plans we've made in the spirit world, because if we did, we wouldn't really learn from them. They wouldn't be surprises. Now, we found that many children don't have this amnesia initially, which is how they can recount things that they shouldn't know. In the book Soul Survivor by Bruce and Andrea Leiniger, who was a guest on my podcast, I encourage you to go look up their past episode. Now, they tell the tale of their son James, who was reincarnated from a World War II pilot. But not only that, but he can recall the hotel room he was conceived in, saying that was when he chose them as his parents. He was doing his next life planning. Now, Dr. Newton's clients mentioned this many times. choosing the major obstacles in their next life, choosing their living situation, hardships, and tragedies. Maybe you just had a hard life, and your next one you want to just kick back on the beach. Or just the opposite. You had it pretty easy last time, and now you're going to be hit with an illness or a death or something that you're going to need to deal with. Any number of things. Don't lose sight of the fact that you chose this path you are on with the help of your spirit guides, and you'll be better off for it when this life is over. Let me take a moment and discuss what little we know about the hierarchy in the spirit world. Each one of these levels hold beings that vibrate at a higher frequency than the ones below. And the more positive emotions you emit, the higher your frequency. If you want a happier life, think happier thoughts. It sounds corny, but it's true. Negative thoughts have a lower frequency and can be measured, as opposed to positive thoughts, which have a higher frequency. All right, so at the top of this food chain, of course, is God, the one we all strive to be like someday. Below that are the ascended masters, the master guides. The first one that comes to mind is Jesus, but there are many others out there. Pretty much every religion has one. The Virgin Mary is another. Below that, we have various councils of elders that will provide you feedback on how you're doing on your spirit journey, conducting your post-life review and your pre-life planning. Then there are us, the average energy being, of which there are various levels, depending on our level of maturity. Now, we are part of a spirit group, a group of souls that we reincarnate with over and over again. You don't have just one soulmate, you have many, and they play different parts each incarnation, depending on what the need is. Your spouse in this life may have been a child or parent in another life. Others may only come into our life briefly, but exactly the right time when we need them most. And then they are gone. Someone you think may have died too soon, in fact died exactly when they were supposed to. So you or someone around you could learn something from it. Someone needed to know how to gain strength, how to handle grief, how to overcome anger and forgive someone, how to forgive that drunk driver or that murderer. We all have our parts to play, and everything has meaning. Keep asking yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? Keep remembering this is all to help you along your spiritual journey, to make you more enlightened. When someone dies in my life now, I think of them as simply moved away, returned to the spirit world, where I will see them again someday. That place of everlasting, unconditional love, and I so envy them. Pretty much everyone who's had a near-death experience has said they did not want to come back. Now, we also have spirit guides, angels, and archangels who can help you while you're still living on Earth, if you call on them. They will not intervene unless you ask for them, as your life needs to run its predetermined course, but sometimes things get off track and you may need help getting back on the rails. So, I guess that's it for now. This is way longer than I thought it was going to be. So please check out the links I provided. Do your own homework and you'll come to realize death is nothing to fear. You've already been through it many times. And your loved ones will be there waiting for you when you get there. The spirit world is an incredible place. And if you want to visit now, meditation can help you feel a little piece of it. Take care.